Hello, wonderful people of the internet. Today we're going to be finding out if electric bikes, like this one right behind me, are worth the hype. As some of you might know, other than doing YouTube, I am a full-time bike shop manager and mechanic. With electric bike sales skyrocketing over the last few years ever since the pandemic, it sure seems like everyone's got an electric bike. I've seen a couple videos here on the platform talking about the benefits of owning an electric bike and a few things to watch out for. I figured as a bike shop mechanic, maybe I could provide some extra insight and things to watch out for if you're gonna buy one. First of all, what would your main reason for buying an electric bike be? Well, I thought of a few. Maybe you're commuting to work. Maybe you have kids you want to take to school, cargo bike style on the back of the electric bike. Maybe you want to save money on gas commuting to work. Maybe you're a mountain bike rider like myself who has minimal time after work to ride mountain bike trails, and an electric bike could help you go a lot farther in a shorter amount of time. Maybe you're interested in just going to town a couple times a week to eat lunch with your friends or your spouse. Maybe you have impeding medical issues that don't allow you to ride a normal bike. In this case, you might want a bike that has a step-through frame, which means it's easier to swing your leg through the center. Maybe you're a road cyclist that would like to take things a little bit farther. Climbing this crazy steep hill. This is a hill I would drastically struggle to get up on my normal mountain bike. Breezed right up it in half power on the big e-bike. About 5 years ago, there was a major influx in electric bikes, and it seemed like everyone was selling them and everyone was buying them. However, one of the main issues with this is certain companies that were selling electric bikes from overseas, other than in the United States, could be here one day and gone the next, making it very tricky to find replacement parts. Sometimes even your local bike shop wouldn't be able to help. Which brings me to my next point, things to watch out for when buying an electric bike. Low cost does not always mean low cost. Let me explain. Working in a bike shop, I feel like I see this day in and day out. Customers that buy e-bikes for a low price on Amazon and eBay, any company online, end up having issues not too far into the process, sometimes even with assembly of the bike. Things that are cheaply made can't always be assembled properly. What this causes is safety hazards, particularly with brakes and shifting components. What I usually recommend if you're gonna buy a bike from a company online would be to check with their warranty program. See if they have customer service that's based in the States, or at least somebody you can call and talk to on the phone if something goes wrong with the bike. Because as a local bike shop, we can't always help you if it's an e-bike company we're not able to get in contact with, especially when it comes to electrical components like motors and batteries. Although we would like to help you out, sometimes it's next to impossible for us as well. Working in a bike shop all the time, I get questions daily about which bike to buy. Definitely with e-bikes, I would say you get what you pay for. The bikes out there in that $500 to $1,200 range are going to be a lot better for commuting on and not taking off-road at all. That $1,500 to $3,000 range is going to be your entry-level off-road, more of a mountain bike. And then anything more serious than that $3,000 point, it's going to be a really good e-mountain bike that you could take off-road. Or if you're trying to get into the e-bike world with road cycling, probably going to be looking at least $5 grand minimum, if not more. But again, if you're just trying to commute to work and have something easy to hop on the weekends or take on camping trips, I would have no problem spending somewhere in that $1,200 to $2,000 range. My next tip of advice would be to go into your local bike shop and develop a relationship with the guys that are working in there. Make sure they're able to service the bikes that you're trying to buy. Better yet, buy the e-bikes directly from them. We get a lot of people coming into the bike shop asking, Forrest, which bike do I buy? Forrest, I do this, which bike should I buy? And they talk my ear off for a really long time, and then what ends up happening is they end up settling for a bike online that has little to no customer service. And if something goes bad on a bike like that, I really can't do much. We always prefer you buy your bike through the local bike shops. Not only does it support local businesses, but it's also a good reassurance you'll be able to service the bike if something goes wrong in the future. My next tip of advice stems from questions that people usually ask me in the bike shop, and that is, are fat tire e-bikes really better for off-road use? Well, are you going to be riding in the wet sand or the snow, or are you going to be mainly riding it on pavement to work and back? While the fat tire e-bikes do provide a much more comfortable ride, there's a lot more surface area on that tire to collect lots of junk. And on some of these e-bikes, the motor is in the back wheel, which in turn makes it very hard to change flat tires if you get one out in the field. Sorry for kind of rambling and bouncing around, but I just thought of something on the topic of motors. When you're buying your bike, you'll probably find that a lot of the lower costing bikes have what they call a rear hub motor. And this is where the motor is placed in the rear wheel of the frame. Those of you who are familiar with this, changing a rear hub motor flat tire on an electric bike is quite the task. You need multiple tools to do it, such as an 18mm or 19mm wrench, a pair of wire cutters, and a little bit of electrical knowledge because there's a few wires to unplug. I'm not saying it's totally impossible, but it could be a little bit tricky for someone who's a little bit more entry level into bikes. An electric bike like I'm riding right now, the Specialized Turbo Levo, it's got what they call a mid-drive motor system, meaning the motor is in the middle of the frame. It's kicking butt. Therefore, when changing a flat tire, it's just like a normal bicycle. It's either going to have quick release dropouts, front and rear, or through axles, which are even easier. If you plan on doing really long work commutes with the bike, that could definitely be something to look into. Having to change a rear flat on particularly a fat tire e-bike on the side of the highway is a real pain. And also the tubes cost a lot more money. The pros to fat tire e-bikes, however, is if you're going to be riding in loose sand or particularly snow. Bikes like that excel a lot, especially in snow and sand, because of the buoyancy of the tire. That brings me to my next topic, the weight. Electric bikes in general are known to weigh anywhere between 50 to 120 pounds, with 50 being on the low end, like some of your really high-end carbon mountain bikes. Some of the big cargo e-bikes I work on in the shop can range all the way up to about 100 to 120 pounds. A lot of people don't necessarily consider when buying an e-bike is the extra cost of a rack for your car. Most bike racks will only do right around maybe 50 pounds per bike, a little bit less. For an e-bike, you're going to want to go with a higher end rack that does almost 80 pounds per bike, if not more, depending on your situation. The second to last thing I wanted to talk about, and you have to be careful for when buying an e-bike, is your local laws. Certain places are now putting restrictions on what type of e-bikes you can ride, whether on and off-road. Certain hiking trails are starting to put signs mentioning you're not allowed to ride electric bikes in that area and whatnot. I've heard stories through our shop of a couple people who have gotten tickets for riding e-bikes that go over 30 miles an hour. E-bikes have 3 different classes. You have class 1, which is a little bit less power than class 2, which is a little bit less power than class 3, and class 3 is really where it tops out, and that's right around 28 to 30 miles an hour. 28 to 30 miles an hour is, at least where I'm at locally, the highest top speed you can go on an electric bike. And the bike has to have pedals as well. They've really been cracking down recently on the Surons and electric dirt bikes and that sort of thing. So we'll do a quick recap. If you're going to be buying an electric bike, what type of bike do you want to buy? Is it going to be a road bike, a cargo bike, something you can take off-road, take your kids to school on, or maybe you just want to do a quick camping trip and have something to take with you? Do you want something you can ride after work and not feel completely burned out? And as a normal mountain bike rider, am I against buying an e-bike? Absolutely not. Matter of fact, I'm riding one right now. So this right here is the Specialized Turbo Levo Gen 3. It has RockShox suspension front and rear. As you guys can see, it does have that mid-drive motor I was talking about. The hub-driven motor is going to be located farther back here in the rear wheel. To add to the reliability of this bike, a lot of e-bikes, especially Specialized nowadays, geez, that's a tongue twister, are coming with electronic shifting components. Designed by SRAM, the GX transmission is designed to shift really well under load, especially in e-bike applications, which is really nice over some of the factory cable shifting that comes on a lot of these bikes. Another really big factor and an honest recommendation as someone that sees a lot of e-bikes, stay away from e-bikes that have cable actuated brakes, whether they're disc or non-disc. What you're going to want is something just like what I've got here. You're going to want a hydraulic disc brake. Essentially what that means is down here you've got a disc brake rotor on the wheel, and the brake is operated off of hydraulic fluid. That can either be a mineral oil or a .4 or 5 brake fluid. Any bike that has hydraulic brakes, in my opinion, is going to be a way higher end than something that has cable actuated brakes, whether they're disc or rim brakes as well. Hydraulic brakes on an e-bike are a must. Number one, the bike's much heavier, takes a lot more to slow it down, especially with you on it. Number two, it's a safety thing. Hydraulic brakes, they seem to take a lot longer to wear out and they don't need as much service. So definitely go hydraulic, especially if you're going to be riding a fat tire bike. As you guys can see right here, we've got a control panel with a plus and minus. This bike is as easy as hitting that minus button. As you can see, we were in turbo mode. It's a little hard to see on camera. So that's your off position. You can ride this bike just like a normal bike. Or if you want any assistance, you can hit the plus, go into trail mode, or turbo mode, or even ride it in eco mode if you want a little bit more exercise. A lot of your really high-end e-mountain bikes as well, I've even seen some as low as $2,500 that do come with a dropper style suspension seat post. What I mean by dropper post is it's operated off of a lever here on your handlebar. When we push that lever right there down, it's going to actuate our seat. This is something that's very common on a lot of mountain bikes nowadays, and a definite upgrade that I would go with over your normal quick release seat post. You are not necessarily going to find something like that on a cargo bike or a commuter bike. Those are going to be more of a fixed seat post design. Being in a local bike shop 5 to 6 days a week, all I see is flat tires. There's a few companies out there, however, that can mitigate this issue, especially for those of us that are going to be getting into e-bikes that have a rear hub motor design. It's really tricky to change a flat. A lot of other videos I've seen on here don't really tell you flat tire mitigations, and this is one of the main issues with electric bikes, especially on the rear tire. When you get a flat, it's really hard to change unless you have a mid-drive motor. You're either going to want to do one of two things. If your tire cannot be converted over to tubeless, which you need a special wheel for, I'll explain that in a minute, you're then going to want to get into a company such as maybe Tannus Armor, they call it. It's spelled T-A-N-N-U-S, Armor. And what that is a 1-inch foam insert that goes on the top. It goes in between the tire wall, and your inner tube. So any thorns, short little thumbtacks that go through there, you can collect on the side of the road. Totally doesn't affect the inner tube at all. You can also throw in tire sealants, and the sealants typically last around 3 to 6 months. That would either be like a Stans sealant. It's spelled S-T-A-N-S. That's technically a tubeless sealant, but you can put that in your inner tubes as well. Or you can do the good old classic green tire slime. Either one of these work decently. If you get like 100 thorns, it's not going to do it, but 1 or 2 it might. Anything that you can do to prevent a flat is totally worth it. It's going to save you a ton of money in the long run. All right, that's kind of my hot take on electric bikes as a full-time bike mechanic and shop manager. I would definitely say to buy through your local bike shop, honestly. They'll be able to help you out with all the service and warranty work if there is any, hopefully not. Flat tires as well. Having that relationship with your local bike shop is a great thing. Although I do usually ride a normal analog bike, I definitely like to get out on my e-bike every once in a while and just have some good old fun. It's great for those days when you're really tired after work and you still want to have a good time on the ride. You don't have to set aside a few hours to have a blast on one of these bikes. What you can accomplish in a few hours on an analog bike, you can accomplish in like 20 minutes on one of these. It is amazing. So I definitely get it in that regard. I am in full support of electric bikes. I think it's great what all the companies are doing nowadays. There's been so much product development on all of these bikes. It seems like every week we're getting updates on a new bike that's came out, and it's just so awesome. Whether you're into adventure, road cycling, you want to ride road, you want to take your kids to school on one, you want to go camping on the weekend and just ride it once a year, whatever you want to do, I'm in full support of. E-bikes are getting people riding who otherwise would not be riding at all. Maybe you have, underlying health issues that restrict you from riding normal bikes, that sort of thing. They are absolutely amazing. Anyways, you guys, I really hope you enjoyed my take on e-bikes. That is going to do it for this week's video. Please subscribe to the channel. My name is Forrest, and we will see you in the next video.